Right after World War II, rebellious bikers banded to form the foundation of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. With a shared love for motorcycles and an undeniable outlaw spirit, the club notoriously carved their names into the annals of legend with dangerous leaders, and among them are the most dangerous Hells Angels leaders in history. But who are they? Background of Hells Angels and its members. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is a captivating brotherhood of bikers that has captured the attention of numerous police and international intelligence agencies, classifying them as motorcycle gangs. These authorities contend that the Hells Angels members are not just a bunch of leather-clad bike enthusiasts, but individuals involved in a wide range of violent criminal activities. The crimes attributed to the Hells Angels are both alarming and extensive. It is said that they engage in nefarious acts such as drug dealing, trafficking stolen goods, smuggling firearms, engaging in extortion, and even running illicit prostitution operations. These allegations have not gone unnoticed, and the members of this notorious organization have consistently found themselves under the scrutinizing gaze of law enforcement agencies worldwide. Many have been accused of committing crimes and have faced the consequences of their actions in various host nations. However, it is essential to recognize that the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club vehemently denies these accusations. According to their members, they are nothing more than a group of passionate motorcycle enthusiasts who have come together to share their love for riding. They insist that their primary purpose is to organize social events, such as exhilarating group road trips, fundraisers for charitable causes, and unforgettable motorcycle rallies. The club claims that any criminal activities associated with their name should be attributed solely to the individuals involved, not the organization. Despite these conflicting claims, there is no denying the Hells Angels' profound impact on counterculture mythology. In less than 7 decades, they have carved out a unique place for themselves as the quintessential American anti-heroes. Their influence has stretched far beyond the borders of the United States, captivating people's imagination from every corner of the globe. Their notoriety and dangerous reputation have made their leaders infamous figures forever etched into the annals of biker stories. Among the ranks of the Hells Angels, a select few stand out as truly legendary figures. These men, with their larger-than-life personas, have become the faces of the club. They are revered for their audacity, unwavering loyalty to their brothers, propensity for risk-taking, and many links to criminal activities, placing them among the most dangerous and rebellious, an attribute common to all Hells Angels Motorcycle Club leaders. Larry Amero. Larry Amero spent his formative years in the charming locale of Langley, British Columbia, with his roots tracing back to his Portuguese heritage. Amero's father, a diligent worker, labored as a longshoreman for the renowned Port of Vancouver. However, it's interesting to note that the British Columbia Maritime Employers Association did not directly employ workers at this esteemed port. Instead, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union hired the workers, while the Employers Association handled their training and remuneration. Through this process, Amero's father generously sponsored his son, allowing him to work as a longshoreman, forging his path within organized labor. In 2002, Amero joined the ranks of the Hells Angels as a hang-around, the lowest rung on the ladder within the hierarchy of an outlaw biker club. Over time, he ascended through the ranks, eventually earning the prestigious distinction of a full patch member, the highest level attainable within such circles. In December of that year, Amero faced a significant legal setback as he was found guilty of possessing narcotics intended to distribute. Once Amero became a full patch member, his influence within the White Rock chapter grew exponentially. While he had a lengthy record of arrests, he had managed to evade conviction on charges related to drug trafficking and manufacturing. Interestingly, Amero continued to work as a longshoreman at the Port of Vancouver despite his affiliation with the notorious Hells Angels. It's worth noting that the port, known for its pivotal role in drug smuggling, had become an operational hub for the Hells Angels. Cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin flowed through its intricate network, making their way into Canada and even finding routes to Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia. The Vancouver Police Department's superintendent, Mike Porteous, emphasized the international significance of this illicit operation, stating that Vancouver served as a critical distribution hub, ensuring significantly higher profits in other countries. Surprisingly, the employment of Hells Angels members at the Port of Vancouver was an open secret. The British Columbia Maritime Employers Association president, Andy Smith, acknowledged their presence without reservation. Amero was not alone in this dual life. Other Hells Angels, including Vince Brienza, Norm Krogstad, John Bryce, and Gino Zumpano, operated within the port's confines. The alarming extent of corruption within the Port of Vancouver was revealed in a report by Transport Canada stating that organized crime groups were deeply embedded within port facilities, employing port workers and corrupting the system. This revelation shed light on the unsavory activities permeating this critical transportation hub, a fact that did not escape the attention of crime correspondents such as Peter Edwards from the Toronto Star. Despite his affiliation with the Hells Angels, Amero maintained his membership in the International Longshore and Warehouse Workers Union, Local 502. However, Amero's true calling lay outside the realm of manual labor. Instead, he preferred to showcase his extravagant lifestyle, frequently spotted aboard his speedboat, aptly named Steroids and Silicone. In the eyes of Canadian journalist Peter Edwards and Mexican journalist Luis Najera, Amero exuded the aura of a bodybuilder with bulging muscles and carried himself with the effortless grace of a Hollywood producer. Amero's love for attention extended beyond his physical appearance, as he adored flaunting his wealth through expensive clothing, watches, and jewelry. Unfortunately for Amero, his ostentatious displays of affluence earned him both admiration and criticism within the White Rock chapter, with some viewing him as too flashy and drawing too much unwanted attention. Amero's wanderlust was not confined to the Lower Mainland. He frequently traversed the vast expanse of Canada, showcasing his leadership skills as he spearheaded the younger faction of the Hells Angels. This faction was known for its willingness to collaborate with other groups, breaking away from the traditional boundaries that typically characterized outlaw biker clubs. However, Amero's life was not without its fair share of legal entanglements. His girlfriend, Sarah Treble, faced charges concerning a shooting incident in a strip club parking lot. Amero's association with the Hells Angels and criminal reputation loomed large, casting a shadow over his involvement in this unfortunate episode. While Treble was ultimately acquitted, it further highlighted Amero's life's complexities and dangers. November 1st, 2012, marked a turning point as law enforcement agencies, namely the Sûreté du Québec and the Service de Police de la Ville de Montréal, launched Project Loquace. This operation resulted in the arrest of 103 members of the Wolfpack in Montreal, their actions exposed through the wire worn by the police informer. Amero found himself among those apprehended as part of Project Loquace, leading to his subsequent incarceration in a Montreal jail. Meanwhile, tragedy struck as the Wolfpack's Siharis met a gruesome demise, his badly disfigured corpse discovered in the Greek countryside. Tortured and burned with acid, Siharis became another unsolved murder in the annals of criminal history. Lavoie, the orchestrator of the ill-fated meeting, fled to Colombia, engaging in drug smuggling alongside a Canadian mixed martial arts fighter and gangster named Stephen Skinner. Unfortunately for Lavoie, his fate mirrored Siharis, with his dismembered body discovered on a bridge in Sabaneta. Both Siharis and Lavoie were believed to have paid the ultimate price for recruiting a police informer into the Wolfpack, leaving investigators with a lingering sense of missed opportunities. In May 2015, a startling revelation emerged. Amero, even from his prison cell in Montreal, had been sponsoring other Hells Angels to join the International Longshore and Warehouse Workers Union at the Port of Vancouver. This revelation shed light on the possibility of cronyism within the union, where jobs were seemingly passed from one member to another, potentially facilitating organized crime involvement. Nevertheless, Amero's involvement in cocaine smuggling charges evaporated when his legal team successfully argued that the Crown took too long to bring the case to court. Following his release from the Montreal jail, Amero found a new haven in Ottawa. However, his freedom was short-lived, as he was arrested on January 25, 2018, in connection with the murders of Sandeep Dure and Sukhvir Sukha Dak. Amero faced trial in Vancouver on June 29, 2021, for these grave offenses. On August 29, 2022, Amero received a conviction of 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder relating to the slayings of Dure and Dak. His co-accused, Rabi Al-Khalil, was also found guilty of conspiracy and first-degree murder in Dure's death and plotting to murder Dak. However, Al-Khalil escaped from the North Fraser Pre-Trial Center, remaining at large. Ralph Hubert, Sonny Barger Jr. Sonny Barger. born Ralph Hubert Barger Jr., was a legendary figure in the world of outlaw bikers and a key player in the formation and growth of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Born on October 8, 1938, in Modesto, California, Barger became an influential icon during the counterculture era, often representing the face of the Hells Angels. Barger's journey into the realm of outlaw bikers began in 1956 when he joined his first motorcycle club, the Oakland Panthers, which he helped establish alongside fellow military veterans. After the disbandment of the Panthers, Barger found himself aligned with another group of bikers. During this time, he encountered Don Boots Reeves, a biker wearing a patch from a now-defunct Nomads chapter of the Hells Angels in North Sacramento. Inspired by this encounter, Barger and his companions formed their Hells Angels Club on April 1, 1957, adopting the famous Death's Head logo, a skull wearing an aviator cap within a set of wings. Although Barger did not find the Hells Angels, established in 1948, he became synonymous with the club and played a significant role in its development. Initially, Barger and the Oakland Hells Angels were unaware of other loosely affiliated clubs using the same name across California. However, through interactions with existing Hells Angels chapters, Barger learned about the club's history, rules, regulations, and procedures. Consequently, he assumed the position of president of the Oakland chapter in 1958 after meeting with Hells Angels from Southern California. With Barger at the helm, the Oakland Hells Angels embarked on a journey across California, uniting with other chapters, dividing territories, and establishing club bylaws. While conflicts arose, especially with other clubs like the Gypsy Jokers, Barger played a pivotal role in consolidating the power of the Hells Angels. When Otto Friedli, the founder of the original San Bernardino Hells Angels chapter, was imprisoned in 1958, Barger was declared the de facto national president and relocated the club's headquarters from San Bernardino to Oakland. The same year, Barger's skull was fractured during a confrontation with Oakland police. Under his leadership, the Hells Angels experienced a surge in membership, and by 1960, the Oakland chapter had established an extensive narcotics network. Barger's influence extended beyond the Oakland chapter, earning him reverence from Hells Angels members worldwide. He was considered the one running the show at any Hells Angels gathering by well-known writer Hunter S. Thompson, who depicted Barger as a tough, level-headed individual capable of handling any situation that came his way. Despite his prominent position, Barger always refuted claims of being the leader of the Hells Angels or the club's headquarters in Oakland, dismissing such notions as mere speculation from the media and police. He believed no single authority was calling the shots. It was all just talk. From 1960 to 1965, Barger worked as a machine operator until he was let go due to excessive absences. During this time, his criminal record began to take shape. In 1963, he was arrested for possession of marijuana, and the following year, he faced the same charge again. Barger's troubles persisted in 1965 and 1966, when he was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. Back in 1965, during a time of anti-Vietnam War sentiments, a rally organized by students at the University of California, Berkeley, sparked controversy. The Oakland Hells Angels denounced the event, calling it a despicable, un-American activity. But it wasn't all smooth riding for Sonny Barger. In 1972, one of the most infamous incidents involving him and other Hells Angels members occurred. They engaged in a high-speed chase with park rangers, which ended in tragedy when a car crashed into a tree. Shockingly, 3 club prospects were discovered in the trunk, 2 bound, gagged, and beaten. Barger and his associates faced serious charges, including attempted murder, kidnapping, and assault with a deadly weapon. Ultimately, they pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of unlawful imprisonment. Barger's troubles didn't end there. He faced murder charges in another incident involving a drug dealer, but he and his co-defendants were acquitted due to doubts about a witness's credibility. In 1973, he was convicted of possession of narcotics for sale and possession of a weapon as a convicted felon, leading to a prison sentence. However, Barger continued to exert his influence even behind bars and was eventually granted parole in 1977. But parole didn't bring an end to his legal battles. Barger faced a parole violation charge in 1978, but was acquitted when his wife claimed ownership of the discovered firearms. Then, in 1979, a significant blow struck the Hells Angels. Barger and several other members were indicted on RICO charges, an effort by the authorities to bring down the notorious biker club. The accusations ranged from drug manufacturing and distribution to murder conspiracy. Barger faced trial, and after an 8-month-long ordeal and the testimony of 194 witnesses, a mistrial was declared for him and 17 co-defendants. Although 9 others were convicted, Barger and his wife were acquitted. In 1984, Barger again was under scrutiny when he became the target of Operation Cactus, an FBI investigation into organized crime and drug trafficking. His involvement in retaliation plans against the Outlaws Motorcycle Club led to his arrest in 1987. After serving his sentence, he was released in 1992. Barger's release reignited tensions between the Hells Angels and the Outlaws, resulting in violent clashes between the clubs. But amidst the controversy, Barger's fame as a best-selling author soared. In 2000, he published his autobiography, Hells Angel: The Life and Times of Sonny Barger and the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. The book provided a captivating glimpse into the club's history, divided into distinct eras that showcase their wild lifestyle, involvement in organized crime, persecution by the U.S. government, and a return to their roots. Even in his later years, Barger remained actively involved with the Hells Angels, testifying in trials and participating in the biker community. Maurice Bouche. Maurice Bouche, also known as Mom, or Les Lunettes, was notorious and popular in the Canadian crime world. Born on June 21, 1953 in Kausapskal, Quebec, Canada, Bouche grew up in poverty in Montreal's Hochelaga Maisonneuve neighborhood. He had a difficult childhood marked by his father's alcoholism and abuse, but his mother gave him love and support. During the 1960s and 1970s, the mafia-affiliated union boss André Didi Desjardins controlled the construction industry in Quebec. Bouche witnessed the violence and corruption that prevailed in his environment. School wasn't his priority, and he dropped out in the 9th grade. In 1973, at 19, Bouche committed his first known crime by stealing $200 from a store. Unsatisfied with his income and desperate to support his drug habit, Boucher turned to a life of crime. He was arrested for several break-ins in 1974 and served nearly 6 months in detention. In November 1974, he attempted to steal cartons of cigarettes from a grocery store, but was caught by the police. During this time, Boucher's girlfriend, Deanne LeBlanc, was pregnant. Boucher struggled with addiction, using various drugs such as alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, amphetamines, LSD, and heroin. In September 1974, he claimed to have stopped using hard drugs. In an interview with a police psychologist in February 1975, Boucher expressed his ambition to become wealthy without working. He aspired to follow in his father's footsteps in the construction trade, but found it difficult to find employment due to the economic recession caused by the Arab oil shock. In November 1975, Boucher committed an armed robbery in a butcher shop, wielding a rifle. He stole a small sum of money, but received a severe sentence for using a firearm. Boucher continued his criminal activities, and in December 1978, he and his younger brother, Christian, were arrested for a series of home invasions. Despite his criminal lifestyle, Boucher secured a legitimate job at a plastic factory in Montreal in July 1979, his longest period of steady employment. However, in December 1981, he faced another home invasion charge that was eventually dropped when the victim refused to testify. Around 1982, Boucher joined a white supremacist motorcycle gang called the SS, known for opposing non-white immigration. Boucher befriended Salvatore Cazzetta, another member of the SS gang who later played a significant role in Boucher's criminal activities. Norman Biff Hamill, a member of the SS, introduced the gang to the drug trade, convincing them of its profitability. Boucher's leadership skills and charisma began to emerge during his time with the SS. He was known for being strong, fearless, and willing to use violence when necessary. The Quebec outlaw biking subculture known as the Red Zone was infamous for its violence, making experienced hitmen fearful of visiting Montreal. In September 1984, Boucher committed a heinous crime, holding a gun to the head of a 16-year-old girl and threatening her life unless she engaged in sexual acts with him. He was convicted of rape. While in prison, Boucher illegally collected unemployment insurance until a clerk discovered his fraudulent activity just before his release in January 1986. Boucher earned the nickname Mom during his tenure due to his attention to detail and meticulous planning. He made sure his men considered all aspects of their operations. Additionally, his distinctive glasses earned him the nickname Les Lunettes, as they made him appear a scholarly graduate student. When Walter, the Nurget Stadnik, became the national president of the Hells Angels in 1988, he appointed Boucher as his Quebec lieutenant. Together, they oversaw the expansion of the Hells Angels in Quebec, including the assimilation of an outlaw biker club called the Vikings, which became the Hells Angels Quebec City chapter. In 1988, Boucher attempted to hijack a truck in Mississauga, Ontario, but was apprehended by the police before he could get away. The Crown agreed to have the case tried in Montreal, and Normand Hamill, another Hells Angels member, paid for Boucher's bail. Hamill owned a company called Irazu Inc., secretly operated by Richard Musel, a reclusive senior senior citizen who provided a haven for the Angels' cash. Boucher's criminal activities continued to escalate. In September 1989, he orchestrated the firebombing of the rival Outlaws gang's clubhouse in Danville. As a result, the president of the Outlaws Montreal chapter, Claude Meunier, was assassinated in September 1990. Boucher's influence grew as he eliminated rival gang members and expanded the Hells Angels' control over Quebec. During this time, Boucher was also involved in lucrative criminal activities, including cocaine trafficking and loan sharking. He amassed considerable wealth and power, becoming one of the most influential figures in the Quebec biker underworld. His son Francis followed in his footsteps and became involved in racist activism, further deepening the family's criminal ties. In September 1992, a significant investigation named Project Jaggy was launched by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, to uncover a drug smuggling operation orchestrated by the Mafia and the Hells Angels. This operation involved the transportation of cocaine from Jamaica, originally sourced from Venezuela. The investigation was triggered when Boucher was pulled over by a traffic cop and found to have martial arts weapons, violating a court order prohibiting him from carrying any weapons. Although Boucher paid a fine, his association with criminal activity did not escape the attention of law enforcement. During the investigation, surveillance photos were captured on May 25, 1993, showing Boucher, dressed in his Hells Angels colors, meeting with Reynold Desjardins, a close associate of Vito Rizzuto, the leader of the influential Rizzuto crime family. The Rizzuto family was known as one of Canada's most powerful mafia families. Interestingly, it was reported that Rizzuto strongly disliked being associated with outlaw bikers. Nevertheless, Boucher and Desjardins maintained a close alliance. In 1994, Boucher was arrested on charges of drug trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, and participation in a criminal organization. The charges resulted from the Project Jaggy investigation and aimed to dismantle the drug smuggling operation involving the Hells Angels and the Mafia. Despite his arrest, Boucher continued to exert his influence within the Hells Angels, even behind bars. A violent power struggle within the Quebec biker underworld marked Boucher's time in prison. In September 1997, Salvatore Cazzetta, Boucher's former associate in the SS gang and a prominent figure in the rival Rock Machine biker gang, survived an assassination attempt. Boucher and his loyalists orchestrated the attack to eliminate Cazzetta and gain control over the drug trade in Quebec. The violence escalated, leading to a deadly biker war between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine that claimed many lives. In 2002, Boucher was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder for ordering the killings of 2 correctional officers, Pierre Rondeau and Diane Levine, in 1997. His loyalists carried out the murders as part of his campaign of terror against those who opposed him. Boucher was sentenced to life imprisonment with no chance of parole for 25 years. Since his imprisonment, Boucher's influence has waned, and efforts have been made to dismantle the criminal networks he once controlled. After several high-profile arrests and prosecutions, the biker war between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine eventually subsided. Maurice Boucher's name remains synonymous with Quebec's dark underbelly of organized crime despite his incarceration. Lorne Campbell. Lorne Edgar Campbell, a former criminal and outlaw motorcyclist, was born in Canada on September 2, 1948. He joined the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club in 1965 and was one of its founding members. Campbell remained a club member until 2000 when it merged with the Hells Angels. From 1985 to 1997, he led the Satan's Choice chapter in Oshawa, and from 2001 to 2006, he presided over the Hells Angels chapter in Sudbury. During his time as a biker, he faced numerous convictions. One of the notable cases involving Campbell is the Port Hope 8 inches case, which was highly contentious. In this case, Campbell claimed to have murdered William Heavy Matiak on October 18, 1978 at Port Hope. However, 6 other men were found guilty of the crime. Campbell's involvement in the Port Hope 8 case and his life in general have been covered in several books, including A Conspiracy of Brothers by Mick Lowe and Unrepentant by Peter Edwards. His testimony about the murder was controversial then and remains so today. Campbell grew up in a tumultuous and abusive environment in his early years. His father, Lorne Campbell Sr., was a troubled World War II veteran who frequently clashed with military authorities. The family's nomadic lifestyle led young Campbell to experience constant relocations and a lack of stability. His father even fathered a child with another woman while stationed in England. Campbell's relationship with his father was complicated, but he acknowledged that his father's desire for him to be a fighter influenced his personality. At age 8, Campbell Campbell's parents divorced, and he spent time under the care of an uncle who neglected him. Despite these challenges, Campbell maintained average grades in school but struggled with anger and violence. His experiences in youth camps further scarred him as he endured brutal beatings from supervisors. Campbell returned to his mother's care in Oshawa, living in a shabby apartment he felt ashamed of. As a teenager, Campbell became enamored with the Phantom Riders Motorcycle Club and its president, Bernie Gunden. He found solace and a sense of belonging in the biker culture, eventually joining Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club in 1965. Campbell's reputation as a martial arts enthusiast and a fierce club member grew. His violent encounters with rival clubs, such as the Golden Hawk Riders, added to his notoriety. Despite starting a mechanical technician's course at Durham College, Campbell never completed it. He rose through the ranks of Satan's Choice, eventually becoming the Oshawa chapter's sergeant-at-arms, responsible for enforcing discipline. However, personal issues led to the dissolution of his relationship with his girlfriend and the loss of custody of their daughter. Campbell and fellow Satan's Choice member John Foote worked as debt collectors for the mafia to supplement his income, ensuring they received 50% of the debts owed. Campbell viewed his work as part of a game, lacking remorse for those who suffered the consequences. Internal conflicts within Satan's Choice, particularly with national president Garnet McEwen, intensified Campbell's disdain for the club's leadership. The pivotal moment in Campbell's life was October 18, 1978, in Port Hope. Acting on a tip from Richard Sove, Campbell went to meet William Heavy Matiak at the Queen's Hotel. Matiak, known for his violent tendencies, was accompanied by Outlaws members and acted belligerently. Feeling threatened, Campbell shot Matiak multiple times, claiming self-defense. His actions led to his arrest for assaulting police officers during a separate incident. During the subsequent trial of the Port Hope 8, Campbell decided to take responsibility for Matiak's murder to protect his biker brothers from the consequences of his crime. He confessed, and a plea deal was proposed, resulting in Campbell admitting to second-degree murder and receiving a 10-year sentence. The trial itself was filled with dramatic twists and turns. Crown attorney Chris J. Meinhardt portrayed the murder as premeditated, while witnesses' testimonies changed multiple times. Campbell took the stand, proclaiming his guilt and the innocence of his fellow club members. However, his perjury conviction and the Crown's accusations of lying to protect his comrades raised doubts about his credibility. Despite the controversy surrounding his testimony, Campbell's claim of killing Matiak remains a significant part of his legacy. Even a protest song by Steve Earle, titled Justice in Ontario, briefly mentions Campbell's case and the Port Hope 8 Inches trial, reflecting the public's divided opinions. Campbell was released between 1985, when he initially applied for parole, and 1988, when he became the president of the Oshawa chapter. He chose to distance himself from the outlaw biker lifestyle, realizing its negative impact on his life. Campbell sought redemption and a fresh start, determined to leave his violent past behind. He focused on personal growth, therapy, and building healthier relationships. In the years following his release, Campbell dedicated himself to helping others and preventing youth from falling into a life of crime. He became actively involved in community outreach programs and started working with at-risk youth, sharing his experiences as a cautionary tale. Campbell spoke openly about the consequences of violence and the importance of making positive choices. Campbell's transformation and commitment to community service earned him recognition and respect from some corners of society. He received awards and accolades for his contributions to youth mentoring programs and his efforts in promoting nonviolence. Despite his efforts, Campbell's past continued to haunt him. Some critics viewed his post-prison activities as an attempt to whitewash his criminal past, doubting the sincerity of his transformation. Others argued that Campbell had paid his debt to society and deserved a chance to rebuild his life, which remains a subject of fascination and controversy, with ongoing debates about his true motivations and the circumstances surrounding the murder of William Matiak. Yves Buteau. Yves Le Boss Buteau, a Canadian outlaw biker and gangster, was prominent in Canada's Hells Angels Motorcycle Club during the 1970s and 1980s. His journey into organized crime began as a Montreal-based Popeye Moto Club member. By the mid-1970s, he had become the club's president, known for his charisma and leadership qualities. The Popeyes, considered the most violent among Quebec's 350 outlaw biker clubs, started a fierce war with the Devil's Disciples, the most powerful outlaw biker club in Montreal then. Under Buteau's leadership, the Popeyes emerged victorious, eliminating several members of the Devil's Disciples and causing the gang to disband. However, their victory was short-lived, as they also faced conflicts with the Montreal chapter of Satan's Choice, a rival gang. During his tenure as Popeye's president, Buteau caught the attention of Sonny Barger, the Hells Angels leader. Barger approached Buteau to persuade his club to join the Hells Angels. With the Devil's Disciples out of the picture, Buteau saw an opportunity for his club to become Canada's first Hells Angels chapter. The Popeyes eventually became Canada's first Hells Angels chapter on December 5, 1977. Buteau transformed the club from a group of beer-drinking brawlers into an organized criminal empire. He maintained contact with other outlaw biker gangs, seeking to expand the Hells Angels' influence. Buteau emphasized a cleaner image for his members, encouraging them to appear clean-shaven and maintain lower profiles to avoid unnecessary trouble. As the Popeyes and the Hells Angels president, Buteau worked as a subcontractor for the Irish-Canadian West End gang, supplying drugs to the biker gangs. A biker war erupted between the Hells Angels and the Outlaws in 1978. The conflict began when Yves Trudeau, an ace assassin for the Angels, shot two outlaws outside a Montreal bar. This incident led to retaliatory attacks, escalating the violence between the two gangs. Buteau declared war on the Outlaws, instructing his club members to eliminate them from Montreal. The war resulted in numerous casualties on both sides, with the Angels displaying a ruthless nature that crippled outlaw morale. In his pursuit of expansion into Ontario, Buteau recruited Walter Stadnick, the leader of a biker gang called the Wild Ones. Seeing the potential threat, the Outlaws launched an attack known as the Le Tourbillon Massacre, which claimed the lives of Hells Angels and Wild Ones members. Despite the setback, Buteau continued to target the Outlaws, ordering the assassination of their members and further fueling the violent biker war. Buteau's influence extended to British Columbia, where he sought to establish new Hells Angels chapters. He talked with a biker gang called Satan's Angels, eventually convincing them to join the Hells Angels in 1983. This expansion secured the Hells Angels' dominance on the Canadian West Coast. Despite his successful expansion and criminal activities, Yves Le Boss Buteau's reign as the national president of the Hells Angels in Canada was tragically cut short. On the 8th of September 1983, Buteau was brutally murdered by a drug dealer who had ties to a rival gang, the Outlaws. It was a shocking and violent end for a man who had played a pivotal role in establishing the Hells Angels as a major criminal force in Quebec. The most dangerous Hells Angels leaders in history have etched their name in crime, yet don't compare to the leaders you'll see when you hit the card on your screen.